afternoon, guys. I decided to come down a little early and get everybody fed because I don't have a driver again. I could if I wanted to wait till like 5 or 6, but I don't. So I've just finished feeding these guys and everybody outside. We have had rain just about all day long, which is nice because it is melting the snow. It did get to like 45, I think, today. I think it's barely dropped to 43. So hopefully the more that it rains, even though it's going to make everything a muddy mess, we will at least have the snow gone that I can start stretching that fence, and then I can get my sheep out of that feedlot and back out on pasture, which will be a relief off of my mind. I hate having them in there, especially now that it's getting muddy. Our straw still has not shown up. I don't know if there was a miscommunication. I don't know. So I'm leaving that to my husband to figure out. Less I have to worry about, the better off we all are. So he's going to get that figured out, and hopefully we will get straw soon. And then I have a little bit left from last year that I keep using to bed up these guys, but I don't have enough to do everybody, especially that big lot, which is why I would really like the sheep back out on pasture. They have oodles of room, they have trees to go under, and it will just be better off for them to have them be able to move around and get some exercise. I do think I was gonna do it today, but my whole day was spent in the office. I need to, oh, apparently I missed his tail. I need to decide if I'm keeping any of these girls. I know there's one for sure I'm keeping because she is an Elvis baby. I'm just not sure about the others. I don't really like, I mean, that's a nice big ewe lamb. Hi, sweet girl. But she's also a single. So I don't know. And she's probably a moose baby if I was guessing, which wouldn't be bad to keep. So the issue I have, normally I keep a ton of lambs out of my fall lambs, but because of my screw up, I don't have a lot of lambs. And I really was only going to keep 2 ram genetics from this group. And I'm keeping the 2 boys with those genetics. I'm keeping 1 girl with those genetics, and I just don't know. Potentially I could breed them in June, May. Let's see, these guys were November. Nope, they wouldn't make May. They'd only be 6 months old, so I'd have to wait till September, October breeding, which would put them at almost a year, which is what I would prefer to breed my stuff at, and I'm going to go back to that this year. I gave in to pressure last year, and it was a disaster, and I'm not going to do it again. I'm going to stick with what I know, with how my sheep are, and breed these guys when they're about a year old, 10 to 12 months old, so that they lamb a little later. It gives them time to grow, gives them time to mature, gives them time to strengthen their bodies. So I think I'm going to go back to that this year. So with these guys, I just don't want to keep a whole lot of them. I probably will only keep 2 or 3 of the ewes. My June lambs that I kept, I could potentially breed them in May. But again, that's out of season, so therefore I would have to give them hormones, and I'm not sure I want to do that to a yearling. So we'll see. I might just keep these guys and the June lambs that I saved from last year and breed them all next October. It's a really long ways away. We'll see. I haven't decided quite what I'm doing yet with these guys, but I do know for sure there's 2 girls in here I want to keep. The rest I may just sell. I really can't afford to keep a whole lot right now, but my husband did give me good news. With the 25 that need to go to the sale, he says we should make it, especially if we have an early spring. So pray for an early spring. and then I won't need to sell any more of my sheep right now. So while I'm waiting for somebody to come and drive for me, I was going and looking through my comments, and I figured I would just address this rather than individually trying to address it, because people will miss it. And the question is, why don't I have my sheep in the barn? Why don't I have shelter for my sheep? I can tell you, number one reason my sheep are not in this barn: they will not all fit in this barn. My sheep will die. This barn, this is a horse barn. Over here, here's the tack room. These back here are all stalls. These over here are all horse stalls. And this, where we're at, that we have made into a sheep barn, it was a riding arena. So where this pen is, where all my jugs are, where these sheep are, this whole thing was a riding arena, is a riding arena. It was not meant to hold sheep, and it doesn't hold sheep. I have right now, I think like 200 and I want to say 65-ish sheep, and they will not fit in this barn. There is just, even if I open this all the way up to where they can get in, where these moms and babies are at, it will only hold maybe 150 ewes at the feed bunks, which means I will have to throw the rest on the ground, and they will trample each other, and any of the younger ones will end up dead. Trust me on this, okay? We had this issue last spring when we were lambing, and I had almost 200 head of sheep in here, and my ewes were trampling each other and they were dying. So I will never put that many sheep in this barn again. 100 tops, that's it, no more. So that is my number one reason I don't bring my sheep into the barn. They will die. They are much safer and much happier outside. The only reason this group is in the barn is because they have lambs. And there are only two reasons I would not leave a sheep outside, winter, snowing, raining, whatever. Two reasons. One, they're lambs. They have not acclimated to the weather yet. And two, if my sheep are sheared. If they are sheared in the middle of winter when it is so cold, they don't have the wool to keep the heat in them to keep them warm. So I think there is a huge misconception on what wool does for a sheep. Wool keeps sheep warm. It insulates them. So if you, I know the pictures are all over Instagram right now of everybody with their sheep out in the pastures covered in snow. And I know a lot of them are getting very rude comments about their sheep being out in the snow. It doesn't hurt them. If there is snow on their backs, that means their wool is doing what it's supposed to do. It is insulating them. It is keeping that moisture from getting down into them onto their skin. So I think a lot of people look at it like, oh no, the sheep are out in the elements. They're okay. They really, truly are okay. Sheep are made to be out in the elements. If you give them something to go under, they absolutely will. That's why I'd really like my sheep back out on pasture, because they have all the trees that they can get under to at least get out of the wet. Even though it's not hurting them, it's not detrimental to them, they're not gonna die from a little bit of rain or snow. I do like having the tree coverage for my sheep. But yeah, even in the rain, their wool is keeping the rain from penetrating into their skin. They are not like us. They are not like cows. They are not like horses. We raised cattle for several years. I mean, my husband and my father-in-law did it for like, I don't know how long, 30 years or something. And same with horses. They raised horses forever. And I kind of came in on the tail end of all of that. You don't want to see snow on cattle and horses because it means they're not getting fed enough to heat up their body to melt that snow. They don't have the heat. They're kind of like us, where we have to have jackets and sweaters to be able to keep us warm. You know, some horses, they need extra, they need blankets and that stuff. But most animals are acclimated to the weather to where they don't need human interference. And I think humans have got it in their heads that animals are human too, and therefore they need all this extra fluffy stuff, and they don't. The worst thing you can do is interfere in an animal in their natural habitat. And yes, I know people can say, well, this isn't their natural habitat. Yeah, my sheep technically should probably be in the mountains like the mountain sheep are, but they're not. They're here on my farm, and I'm doing the best I can. And I believe me, I would way prefer them to be able to have access to the 100 acres out back, to where they can roam free and be under the trees and be out in the hay fields and be enjoying themselves rather than being stuck in a pen. I hate it. Even the stuff right here close to the barn, I would rather my rams be out in their pasture where they have the tree coverage and they have room to roam. I don't like keeping things contained. I so much prefer them to be out roaming and being sheep. But sometimes you don't have those options, especially when you don't have a fence to hold the sheep in, or you can't put the rams next to the ewes because they are still in season and they will try to go over the fence and potentially hurt themselves or end up dead because they break a leg or something. So we do the best we can, but yeah, they don't need to come into the barn. They don't need to have a shelter. Their wool is doing exactly what it's supposed to do in keeping them warm and keeping them comfortable. And okay, I think somebody just pulled in, so I'm going to head to the house and see if somebody can drive for me, and we'll get everything out in the feedlot fed up. And as long as it keeps raining, it will melt the snow and I will be able to get my fence put up. And then everything will be right in my world again. Because it really does bother me. It probably bothers me more than it does any of you that my sheep are confined right now, because I don't like it. I want them out on pasture. I want them out living life the way they're supposed to. So I am going to get them fed. My dogs haven't shown up yet. I know Patty was up at the house. She was underneath the gazebo watching the rain, and Casper was out wandering somewhere here just a bit ago, but they haven't come over to eat yet, so I probably need to find them, or at least take food to them, and then yeah, get everything fed and going. So I'm gonna shut up now and I'm gonna get back to work. So just for context, this barn is open on 3 sides. We only have these half walls because, like I said, this was a riding arena. It was built before my time. So so even in the barn, they will get the elements from outside. They will get the rain, they will get the snow, they will get the wind, and 9 times out of 10, it is colder in the barn than it is outside, because there is not a lot of sunlight that gets in here, especially on days where there is no sunlight. So yeah, it's not ideal for sheep. We make it work because it's what we have. But I would never house my sheep full-time in here, ever. It would just be, it would be bad for their health. You know, we already know springtime has respiratory issues for sheep. Imagine putting them in here with damp air every day, all day. That's just a recipe for disaster. So yeah,